What's up, fight fans? We got Glove Talk episode 17. Here with my boy Jose.
Yo, yo.
Here to go over UFC Fight Night, Jared Cannonier versus Marvin Vettori, and then the upcoming Fight Night, Topuria versus Josh Emmett, which should be a banger. I mean, Topuria is one of our favorite fighters, so.
Yeah.
And we also got to talk about the Connor allegations too, but no, we'll talk about that later. So going into and we only had like 12 fights this card, so a little smaller card. So we had beginning we had light heavyweight fight. We had Zach Pauga versus Modestas Bukauskas. Bukauskas here getting a decision win, which I think he won the fight. This fight, wasn't the most active fight, but I don't know, it just it filled its purpose for being a prelim fight, I guess. Bukauskas, didn't he come off that win against William Knight?
No, that was Prohop thinking of.
Okay.
No, he came off a win against Tyson Pedro. Was his last fight.
Oh yeah, he's the guy that beat Tyson Pedro. So
Yep.
Tyson Pedro's a tough guy, and then to beat Zach Pauga, who's not really the best. He has a loss against Usman's brother, so he's not really the best. But down here at light heavyweight, trying to get a new weight class, but ended up getting a loss. So I don't know what's next for him. He really, I don't know if he makes a cut in the UFC.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you, Zach Pauga, man, and it's disappointing because he's talented, but if he was small for heavyweight, he looks small for light heavyweight in that fight. I don't know what it is. He just looks small. He looks, and I think like he has the talent. You can tell his strike, it's there, but like Bukaki just overwhelming points. All credit is Zach Pauga. He's got a tough. He ate all those shots, but yeah, like you said, I don't know if he can in the UFC, man, and I don't know if he can make 185. I think that would be the perfect weight class for him, but I don't know if he can make that cut. But
I don't
either
know
way,
if these ex NFL players, they just don't do the best in the UFC.
yep, no, exactly. Eric Anders is another example of that.
Hardy.
Yeah, Dan Hardy. So I mean, all credit Bukaki. So good one for him, man. He's got a nice little streak going. And I'm happy. It wasn't sloppy big boy fighting like we usually get on these fight nights. So yeah, good way to start the card.
Then the next fight we had no contest between Ronnie Lawrence and Dan Argueta. Dan Argueta was dominating the fight. Should he? I mean, he was gonna end up finishing that shallow guillotine anyway. And I listening to his interviews after the fight. I mean, I knew about him, but just made me a bigger fan because the way he took that, took how the fight ended up going with the ref fucking it up. He took it right, and he's ready to get back in there, and he's got another fan now. And Ronnie Lawrence, he didn't do nothing wrong on his end. He
Right.
just was losing, But Ronnie Lawrence, I don't know if he needs to tighten up his wrestling because Dan Argueta was just, I don't know, he's chaining together a lot of takedowns and transitions. Ronnie Lawrence looked like he was helpless out there against him, And Dan Argueta is a guy, this is him coming back to bantamweight. So it was his
Yeah.
first fight back at bantamweight. So I don't know, Ronnie Lawrence. I still like you. Still think you're a good fighter, but you need to tighten up on the wrestling defense.
Yeah, and for Dan Argueta, man, he's a Jack guy. Trains out of a good gym, and he looks so good, man. I Bantamweight's a division. We keep talking about it. All these prospects keep coming up. Dan Argueta's another one, man. And again, nothing he did wrong, nothing Ronnie Lawrence did wrong. And, in a way, Keith Peterson, I get why people are. I also get where he was coming from as well. When that thing is so tight, and he was checking to see if the arm went limp because he saw him going for the tap and then stop. Um, it's tough. It's a tough decision to make. I'm glad they went back to play and tried to fix it. I think they should have just kept the decision the way it was because Ronnie Lawrence was going to tap out or go to sleep regardless. There's no way he was getting that one. Um, but either way, I mean, like you said, made me a big fan as well. Seeing how he handled that.
Yeah, that guillotine didn't even get started yet. He didn't even start with the. He still could have it was a shallow guillotine, so he still had the jaw crank he could have had, and then also you could have had him go to sleep as well. So
Yeah, which is crazy. He's already got the tap. That shows you just how tight Dan grip on the neck is, man. So yeah, listen. Regardless, I think Dan Argueta made a lot of fans of that performance. We're definitely gonna see more of him. But yeah, Keith Peterson, man, he had a couple moments on the card that I'm surprised Dominic Cruz didn't go as hard at him as he usually does. But it is what it is. That's part of the fight. The ref's job is to keep the fighter safe today.
Then we had a women's flyweight bout. We had Teresa Bleda versus Gabriela Fernandez. Teresa Bleda, another fight where somebody's wrestling was exposed, somebody's ground game was exposed. Gabriela is known as a good kickboxer, but on the ground, she just couldn't get up with Teresa Bleda on top of her.
Yeah, and Teresa Bleda dominated her, even by the number. Dominated her, outstruck her by 140 strikes, 10 minutes of control time, almost 11.
I think those
Um,
are like ground strikes, though.
yeah, but I mean, the activity means something. Damage means something in a way, and I think like if you're not throwing, you're not causing damage. I think what we're seeing on fight night cards, especially with the octagon being smaller at the apex, people that exert more pressure end up having better fights. People that like to take a slower pace in the bigger octagon, you're able to kind of go side to side a little bit, pick shots. In the smaller apex octagon, whoever puts the most pressure, they're getting the takedown, they're getting the clinches, they're the ones engaging more, and that counts for something when the refs score it. And even though those were mostly ground strikes, she got her down there. Like you said, wrestling got exposed. You got to learn uh, to have that facet in your game if you're going to be a complete mixed martial artist at the highest level, And I think that's been where Gabriela Fernandez definitely got exposed in, and Teresa Bleda, man, listen, she looks tough, man. She looks big to the weight class. Well, I want to see more out of her. I was impressed, very impressed with her performance.
And then next fight we had Carlos Hernandez versus Dennis Bonder. Just flyweight we talk about all the time. It allows these guys to have really high technical fights, which what this was. Very high technical on the feet and everywhere it was, and that's what these lighter divisions usually bring for us. More technical versus chasing knockdowns because you guys don't really have knockout power like that. So, and I think Carlos had a great fight, and I think he deserved a decision win. So.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think the beauty of flyweight, it's like when you're watching someone play Mortal Kombat, they're spamming the button, getting all stuff done. That's kind of like watching flyweights, man. These guys are so good, and it's almost every flyweight on the UFC roster has a win over a big name opponent, or just has this like talent. Like the flyweight division is so good right now in the UFC. For Carlos Hernandez, man, really good win. In a very good fight, and we've been blessed, man. The last few cards, we've got very, very good high level flag fights. It's that division's looking very good right now, and yeah, Carl has a good win. Not taking anything away from Dennis Bonder, he had a, he did what he did. It's technique, man. These technical fights is whoever is more on point than the other. Um, yeah, man, good fight. I like seeing these smaller weight cards in the smaller octagon. Makes for better fights for sure.
And then the next fight, we had a bantamweight fight. We had Ho Kong versus Christian. How you say his name? Kion? Huh?
Quinones.
Quinones. Kang, he got caught and he was hurt and he had wobbly legs. And then while he was wobbly, Christian, came in and then he got caught and then Kong ended up sinking into submission when he was hurt. So good comeback fight. And but Christian still looked good. He looked like his striking was very technical and very high level. So he just got to make sure he doesn't rush in, and find better ways to finish the fight.
Right. No, and like you said, his striking looked like it was there, man. But it's just one of those things that game when when someone is alert to a opening for submission like that or an opening for a grab, that's what can happen. You rush in and you don't check your mirrors. You don't make sure you got your head tucked a certain way. You make sure you got your chin a certain way. Like that. That's what can happen. And so, good finish for Ho Kang, man. But again, nothing to take away from Christian Quinones, man. You can tell the talent's there. It's just that's the game. That's the game of mixed martial arts. Some nights you get caught like that. And, for Ho Kang's a good win, man. And honestly, so far on the card, man, like it's a really good start. Like I will say one thing about this card: these fights are pretty very cut and dry. Not very much controversy in the decisions other than the no contest and stuff. A lot of high level fights. This was one of them too, where I enjoyed it. I was definitely on the edge of my seat. You know, with that whole exchange going into submission. Yeah, good fight, man.
Then we had to end off the prelims. We had Jimmy Flick versus Alexandro Costa. Alexander Costa earning the performance of the night with his leg kicks. Just destroying Jimmy Flick's legs. And I mean, that's really what this fight was: him destroying his legs, and he ends up getting the win off of destroying the guy's legs. Um, so a good performance out of Alexander Costa. What does he fight at the shooter box?
I think it is Shudo Box. Yeah, I think it is Shudo Box. Yeah, let me check that real quick. No, Lobo fights out of
Oh,
Lobo. Um, he has a his only loss in the UFC is to Amir Albazi. And that's not something to frown upon. Amir Albazi is a tough fight. Uh, but yeah, no, Costa, man, he looks so good. He looks like intense in the pressure stuff. And chasing the finish. That's one thing I always like to see out of these fighters that get in these positions where they have their opponents vulnerable is chasing the finish. And Costa definitely did that. And again, flyweight. It's one of those divisions we talk about. Like high technical fighting. And so Alexander Costa, very good fight, very good win. Now got a 2-fight win streak. I think definitely ranked fight definitely in his future for sure.
I mean, yeah, if he's only losses against Amir and Amir, he just got the win over Kai, which was controversial, but it was still a competitive fight. So.
Right, right.
And then to start off the main card, we had Nicholas Dalby getting a decision win over Muslim Solikov, the only Russian who decides, I don't do no wrestling. I like to stand. Well,
The
I
Kung
guess
Fu.
Umar doesn't. Umar can wrestle, but Umar likes to stand
Yeah.
too. But I
No,
know Nicholas Dalby out here outclassing him on the feet, and then I like the Denmark fighters. The Denmark fighters are usually pretty, pretty solid, pretty tough dudes. They're not, super high level, but they're in there for the fight. You know, I don't know these guys. This was a welterweight fight. I just realized these guys are
yeah.
kind of
Wait, they're big for welterweight.
yeah.
Yeah. No, Nicholas Dalby, man, I was impressed 100% with him. He like it amazed me. Nicholas Dalby, I wasn't expecting him to be so aggressive in the grappling exchanges, because like you said with Russian, you have this preconception that grappling is the main thing, but Muslim Salikov, King of Kung Fu brand, according to him, um, he had some good exchanges on the feet, but Dalby was more on point, man. I think Salikov was throwing the spinning stuff, which is fine, but Dalby was just in his face the whole time, and I don't think he knew what to do with it. And then on the ground and in the clinch, just Dalby had the advantage for sure, and he looks stronger, man. This
I,
fight was a close contender for me for fight of the night, just for the back and forth for most of it. But Nicholas Dalby, good win, man. Could have fooled me telling me he was 38 years old. He does not look 38 at all.
yeah,
And
him and Jared looked pretty good tonight.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And Salikov, man, it's been disappointing. He came to the UFC with a lot of hype. I don't know. I don't see. I really don't, man. I think he has a lot of holes in his game, and Nicholas Dalby, he looks so solid in every facet, man. I want to see more of Nicholas Dalby. Um, like you said, 38 years old. He's only lost to Tim Means 2 years ago now. He's been on a 3-fight win streak now. But I want to see more at the welterweight, man. A lot of good fights to make for Nicholas Dalby at welterweight.
And that goes to show also with Solikov, like guys like kung fu fighters like to throw like really flashy kicks. Like you gotta watch like a guy like Yair. He does flashy stuff, but he's throwing them with like dangerous intent. Like you gotta walk that fine line of throwing it just to be flashy or throwing it actually to do some damage. Because if you're just throwing it to be flashy, that's how you end up getting caught. A guy just stands in the pocket, and throws. So
Yeah, kind of like we saw with Christian Leroy Duncan this card as well, and we'll get to that fight. Same problem. Same problem.
and then we had Manuel Torres with a vicious finish over Nicholas Mota. I mean.
That was disgusting, man. He was getting pieced up before that too, and then he just like you could tell he got pissed off and was like, "All right, bet
These Mexican fighters, bro.
that elbow." That elbow sent Nicholas Mota to go see his ancestors, bro. Like that, he was in heaven for a second. He died. There's bro, he was out. And these Mexican fighters, man, they're looking nasty. They are looking nasty, and every one of them coming in with mean intention, man. I love seeing what Manuel Torres had, 100%. And Nicholas Mota, no disrespect to him, man. He fought a good fight before that. He was catching Manuel Torres, who wasn't watching his chin. But man, that elbow, that's one of the best finishes I've seen in a while, man. That was a very good finish.
And then, I'm a fan of Pat Sabatini versus Lucas Almeida. Oh, nasty in submission. Did you see his back when he was doing the submission? His back was fucking. I
Yep.
think, a guy is disgusting, bro. When they got
Well,
that.
he's a Daniel Gracie guy. He comes from my line. Daniel Gracie guy trains out of Philly. Uh, one thing that Paul Felder, who also Daniel Gracie guy, said, the wrestling is the art that was making the difference in the fight, and that's the thing you see with Daniel Gracie jiu-jitsu that I firsthand, and you see what a lot of Daniel Gracie guys is. It's not just doing jiu-jitsu; is they mix in the wrestling. To be able to get in a position to finish a fight with a choke, right? You have to know how to wrestle. There is no jiu-jitsu without wrestling if you think about it in a mixed martial arts standpoint, right? For Pat Sabatini, man, he definitely showed that that fight. Like
And
what got
only get hit 3 times the whole fight.
yeah, and then when to get in that position, it was his wrestling, man. He dominated him to get in the position to get the gift wrap, finish the arm triangle. Beautiful stuff, man.
That's my favorite submission.
Yeah, great finish, man. And he wasn't flattened out. That his coach was young for him to flatten out his back to finish it. So for him to finish it with an arch back like that, that's tough, man. That's tough. I love Pat Sabatini. Can't wait to see more out of him, man. And I'm happy Daniel Gracie guys getting a couple wins here and there, man.
Then we had Armand Petrosian versus Christian Leroy Duncan, kickboxing fight here. Petrosian, mixing it up a little bit more though, which ended up getting him the win here. But Petrosian, I'm a fan of him. I've always been a fan of his stand up. To see him mix it up a little bit and show a little bit more mixed martial arts, made me happy. Especially against a guy like Christian Leroy Duncan, who seemed like he was set in like one way he wanted to fight the fight. So, um,
Yeah, I
and
think
he doesn't even look like he's from the UK, bro. He looks American, bro.
it's that Jamaican descendants, man. That's what it is. But nah, Christian Leroy Duncan. I'm disappointed. I'm not gonna lie, man. He's so long. You can tell he's a very good kickboxer, but he has no boxing. He has no jab, no straight. It was just all kicks, all spinning, and I think his slow footwork is what killed him because Armin Petrosian, whenever Leroy Duncan would throw a kick, Armin Petrosian was already in his face, landing a combination. And there's a couple times that Armin Petrosian could have finished this fight. And he just looks so good. Armin Petrosian's really rounding out his game, like you were saying. Just a lot more mixed martial arts rather than relying just on a stand up. Very, very good fight for Armin Petrosian. And Christian Leroy Duncan, listen, he didn't look horrible. Like I said, it's just disappointing because he can do better. And I think he will do better. Got time to work on it. Um, but for middleweight, Armin Petrosian, man, he reminded me of yesterday. He kind of looks like a bigger version of Beneil Dariush in the way he goes about stand up. Like that kind of just like hunched over style where they're just like when they throw, it's landing and it's landing hard. I think Armin Petrosian, if he keeps rounding out his game, could be a big problem. These Armenian guys in the UFC, man, are no joke. Other than Shabazian, because Emmett Shabazian doesn't know how to wrestle. But beside that, Armin Petrosian looked very good, man. Very good fight. Yeah, middleweights definitely get some more contenders now.
Then we had the co-main. We had top 10 lightweight Armin Tarzukian versus Queen Silva, an unranked guy, and a guy who almost ends up, he almost finished Arman. He had him hurt. He had him on wobbly legs. But people on Twitter were talking shit about Arman, but I just think that shows that he's game. He can fight through getting hurt, and it shows that he's there for a 5 round fight as well. When you're gonna get clipped at least once or a couple times in a 5 round fight, so.
Yeah,
Silva's not like a trash guy either. He had a couple. He's strong and he had a good jiu-jitsu, so a dangerous guy in there. And Arman, ended up getting the finish as well. So props to
yep.
him. I know he probably wanted that Mocano fight, and he probably wants like a top 5 fight next. I say give him Beneil. Why not?
No, I agree. Armin Sarukian, man, he's so aggressive, but when you're that talented, you can be. You know, he's so good in almost every facet of the game. But like you said, Joaquim Silva almost caught him, like almost knocked him out to start the fight. And Sarukian did a very good job recovering. And at the end of the fight, like Keith Peterson let it go, and Dominic Cruz gave him credit at the end of the fight, which I was shocked because Dominic Cruz hates Keith Peterson, but I think that like he was destroying him at the end of the fight. Those shots landing on the ground. I would love to see that matchup with Beneil Dariush, man. Those two guys fight so similar, and they're both game for it. They're both game to be in each other's face. I would love to see that fight. I think Armin definitely deserves a higher ranked fight, you know, than he's been getting lately. I think the Hanato Moicano fight would have ended very similarly, just the way Hanato fights. And it's nothing against Hanato. It's just Armin's a monster, man. Armin's like a zombie. Like the way he took that punch from Joaquim Silva and then did a desperation shot, and you think, okay, most of the times a guy gets stunned, shoots for a takedown, they probably aren't going to land it. Now he took him down with ease, and then he got back into his rhythm and started, you know, imposing his will in the fight. Very good job for Arms Sarukian taking this fight on short notice as well. Replacement fight takes a lot of balls to do because we've seen it before. Guys take replacement fights, they lose, they get cut, something. You know, you lose, derails your momentum. Uh, Shout out to him. Shout out for Joaquim Silva taking this fight. Yeah, Armin Sarukian definitely throws a wrench in at lightweight in terms of who are you going to match up with who. But I think it's a good problem to have, man. I think it's a good problem to have, and it's good to see Armin. Good to see Armin doing what he does. You know.
We had the main fight. We had Marvin Vettori and Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier breaking the middleweight record for most significant strikes landed in a fight. You know, destroying Marvin Vettori in this fight. I only gave Marvin. Well, actually, you know, Marvin got a couple rounds. I gave him 2 rounds. I gave him round. I think I gave him round 3, 4. No, no, I gave him round 1. I gave
I
him
gave him
round
round.
1 where you hurt Jared, and then I gave him round 3 after he got hurt. I think he won the round
Mhm.
after that. So, but you know, there could have been a 10-8 in there for Jared as well, though, because he was destroying him. So.
I gave Jared 4 rounds because even round 3 he outstruck Marvin by like 60 strikes or whatever. I think it was like 80 20 something.
It might have been
Um,
round 4 I
and
gave Marvin.
yeah, crap. I think round 4. So yeah, round 4. That one was close. I still gave 4-1 just because.
Just damn.
Listen, I don't believe in crystals. I don't believe in crystals, man. But Jared Cannonier's making a good case for him lately. um, Martin Vittori. Listen, I'm not gonna say my bad. I think what I say about him still stands in the way, but I'm gonna give him credit. He has a chin. That man ate all those shots, still kept trying to fight. Uh, but Jared Cannonier, I mean, he got wobbled really to start the fight,
Yeah,
right? So he got put on the
my heart
back
stopped.
foot. Yeah, same. But then he landed everything after that. Like Jared Cannonier, it was like doing heavy bag practice. Like Marvin Vittori's face was just there the whole time. And he did a very good job, man. He did a good job with his ground game as well. His ground. Um, I'm gonna scale back a little bit from what people on Twitter said. 'Cause people said, "Oh, if he rematched Adesanya, it would be a different fight than the first fight." I still don't believe that in a way because I don't think anybody at middleweight right now beat Israel except maybe Ham, right? I think Israel Adesanya is just on a different level than the rest of the middleweights. No disrespect to Robert Whitaker. That's just how good
It's a
Israel
bad
Adesanya
matchup.
is, right? It's a bad matchup. But Cannonier looked very good. He did his job in the main event, beat the number 3 middleweight, is going to fight Robert Whitaker. That's about 99% certain. I think a good rematch
It's not
made.
fighting Rob
I
Whitaker.
think that would
Whitaker
definitely
and
be an.
Duplessis are fighting. Whoever wins that's fighting Izzy. He's
Yeah,
fighting the loser of
yeah,
Whitaker
but
Duplessis.
yeah, which okay. let's look at it this way. Just because Duplessis against Cannonier, we know who wins that fight. Cannonier run him over because Duplessis has the gas tank of a smart car. He has no gas tank. I think for Whitaker, here's my problem. I know they said Whitaker Duplessis the winner fights Izzy in Australia. I know they're trying to angle for Izzy to fight the 205 champ, whoever it is between Yuri and Jamal, right? There's a lot of variables going on right now. I think Cannonier did a good job putting his name back in the mix, though,
He just put his
right?
name above Marvin. That's
I,
basically all he did.
yeah, and he had to because Marvin robbed Roman Dolce and got number
I
three
mean, Jared
ranked.
robbed Sean
So
Strickland, I think, too. So
yeah,
I think Jared's gonna have to
yeah,
fight
got
Hamza. Honestly,
and that's the thing. Duplessis Whitaker, the loser fighting Jarrett sounds great. Hamzat Chimaev is the fight to make. Hamzat Chimaev is the fight to make. And I'll be honest with you, I love Jarrett. Love what I saw on Saturday, right? But Hamzat, that's a tough fight. That's a tough fight for him because we saw the problems in this fight when Marvin was pressuring him with the same stance, you know. And I think one thing I saw with Jared, he faced Marvin, who has no power in his hands. Yes, Marvin, you have no power in your hands. Oh, it is what it is. And Jared's chin was just out there. I think Hamza is so good that if you leave your chin out there, we've seen it before. You're getting caught. You're getting caught, at some point or another. But regardless, very good
he
fight for
showed,
Jared
even should
Neer. Very good
showed
fight.
good wrestling as well. So
Yeah, yeah. He's rounding out his wrestling, man. He's rounding out his game. At 39 years old, he looks like he's 27, if I'm being honest. Like, he looks so good for his age. I think there's
got
still
cocoa
room to
butter.
grow for Cannon here. Yeah, and I think the crystals are doing their job. I think the crystals are definitely doing their job. He's got his chakra lined up right now. So yeah.
Pause on all that. Pause on all that.
And for Mark Vittori, man, I don't know who
He
he fights.
doesn't throw enough. He doesn't throw enough. He only throws one, like bunches of 1-2, 1-2-3s, or ones. I say he don't throw. Don't throw.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't really care who fights next. I think Marvin Vittori. We've had enough Marvin Vittori for a bit, man. He could take a year off.
Yeah, I thought he did all right. Learn training to learn how to kick. I don't even think he threw that many body kicks.
No, no, and the lead they were talking about the calf kick and the calf kick, and I understand why because of the stance matchup or whatever, but I think it's more just an activity thing from Arbitori. He needs to throw more. And that's what his coaches are telling him. His coaches are telling him to throw more, and I get it. Cannonier is a good striker. It's overwhelming, but I think you're Marvin Vittori. You got to try skills sometimes. And I think what we see in the last few fights is he's struggled against people that can match his output, and he slows down. And so happened. Vittori came out rushing in the first round, and then he slowed down the rest of the fight. So
What, bro? Keep talking.
we got real lives here.
I'm gonna edit that out, bro. Go ahead, dude.
Our podcast. Yeah, we got real lives here. But nah, man. Listen, good fight. I think it's a very good card. I think if we're gonna rate this out of 10, I'm giving this card an 8. It was 8. A lot of good finishes. No real boring fight. Card. Card size is good too. I'm a fan of the smaller size cards because you're not as tired and worn out come the main event. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, good card, good win for Jared Cannonier, and yeah, now we get to look forward to next week's card,
Banger
which is
card.
very
Like
good.
this is we got in the prelims we got Cody Brundage versus Boot Gang.
Yeah, so some fight replacements. Uh, Vic, Victor Martinez out. Jose Mariscal is going to fight Trevor Peak. Joshua Van is going to fight Zaga Zamagulov, and Puna Surianza. So Cody Brundage is going to be fighting Bugay, Cedricus Dumas.
We got Tato Taro on
Um,
this card. You know,
yeah,
prospect out of
yep.
Japan.
Um,
Jack Jenkins. We like the
yeah,
Aussies. I really like Jack Jenkins.
Yeah. So tomorrow, guys, I will be recording a breakdown on Josh Emmett, Ilya Topuria. This fight for me, Ilya Topuria is my guy. He is him and his brother, the first Georgian black belts in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And to think that this guy can grapple, but then just sends people to the shadow realm with his striking. He's so good, man. Josh Emmett coming off his loss to Rodriguez for the interim belt. So this fight right here has huge implications at featherweight. If Ilya Topuria can pull this off, that's no small feat. Beat
Yeah, I
a guy
think
like
he beats
Josh
a guy like
Emmett.
Josh Emmett. You give him like maybe you give him the like a Calvin Cater fight or a Brian Ortega fight, and then gets a title shot after that. You know.
Yep. And Max Holloway's fighting Korean
Yeah,
Zombie
he's about to
next.
baptize Korean.
Yeah, I think Korean Zombie's gonna get the Calvin Cater. If I'm being honest, um, and I love Korean Zombie, but yeah, his face is just gonna be sitting there the whole time for Max to hit. But I think Ilya Saporia, if he wins his fight, another wrench at featherweight. A lot of good matches can be made. But the rest of the card
Maybe
looks so good,
even if he
man.
wins this,
Brendan
maybe give
Allen,
him Max. You know, after Max destroys Korean Zombie. You know, maybe Max
I
needs to win one more
I
to even
agree.
get that other fight with Volk. You know.
Zamagula is an interesting one because that's the guy with the Paddy Pimblett bowl cut out of Kazakhstan. He's 5'4" to
Why
flyweight with
is
that bowl
why
cut.
is
That's a
Amanda Ribas, Macy Barber higher on this card than Brendan Allen?
uh I I think it's more of a records thing is number one, and number two, Brendan Allen, Jack Hermanson pulled out.
Bruno
So he's
Silva's not a
fighting
bum, bro.
Rosso was not a bum, but he's not Jack
And you got
Hermanson.
Neil
That's
Magny
what the
on the
way the UFC
prelims.
did.
Randy Brown and
Yeah,
Wellington Thurman on the prelims.
well, that's the thing. Neil Magny, Phil Rowe. That's one of my underrated fights on the card. Both of them 6'3". Both of them BJ black belts. Super long and very good
Oh,
grapplers. Well, this is one of my underrated fights.
Baby Shark might be taking an L to get
Uh,
Gillian Robertson, bro. I'm sorry.
yeah, Tabitha Ritchie against Jillian Robertson. That's going to be an interesting
I love
fight.
Tabitha Ritchie, but that might be tough.
Bro, who doesn't love Tabitha Ritchie? Tetsuro Taira's that's going to be a good fight against Clayson Rodriguez, who's not a bum. Trevor Peak against Jose Mariscal. I think Trevor Peak that's a gimme now. He's fighting a replacement. Justin Taffa against Austin Lane. Austin Lane has 6 inches in height and 6 inches in reach on Justin Taffa, and they're both a heavyweight, so that's gonna be an interesting fight to watch. Onama versus
Oh,
Gabriel
Gabriel
Santos.
Santos is that guy
Onama,
who he got that short notice fight and he was going crazy. He got robbed.
yeah, and Onama's the guy that him and Nate Landwehr put on that
Yeah,
slugfest
that fight
last
was
year.
crazy.
Yeah, so hopefully he has a gas for this fight.
I think Santos got robbed
Uh,
against Lerone Murphy, I think.
was it Lerone
It was
Murphy?
on
I
that UK
think you
card.
might be right. Yes, Lerone Murphy split decision. Yes, yes. Yep. And he got robbed. He
He's a
definitely got
demon,
robbed that
so.
fight. I remember. Yeah, but it was because Lerone Murphy's British and the fight was
That
in
was the
England.
Usman
So
Edwards card?
Usman Edwards card. Yep. Um. Yeah, Macy Barber, Amanda He was coming in -200 favorite. I think that's fair. I think Macy Barber. She either robs it on the cards or she gets submitted. That's the way
Yeah,
I
she's.
see it.
I got
Uh,
Amanda. I think Amanda's more aggressive. I think she's better.
my question. My question is, brother, why is Boot Gang the the third highest fight on this card over Neil Magny, over all these other names that we've met? Like, why is he on the main card? Why is Cedricus Dumas, who's own one the U
I don't
on
know.
the
He's
main
getting on the
card
UFC
against
fight, and
the
he's the first fight on there.
yeah? So no, Cedricus Dumas is the fight before the
Oh,
co-main.
dang. Well, Cody
Yeah,
Brundage, they like Cody Brundage
fight.
though. He's a good fight. You know.
Yeah, but Cody Brunch was a replacement, so that got put there before that even. Yeah, and pretty interesting to see that. Um, So yeah, that card is going to be very good. It's going to be in person too. They're going to have a it's going to have a crowd in Jacksonville. Um some other replacement news for fights and fight announcements. So the Fight Night card in Vegas on July 1st, Jordan Levitt is out. So Guram Kutitelate is going to fight Elvis Brenner. Macy Chizon is out. So Carol Rosa is going to fight Yana Santos. R.I.P. Yana Santos,
They
drug
announced
tester
Corey
too.
Sandhagen versus
Uh,
Umar Nurmagomedov.
yeah, yep. Umar versus Corey Sandhagen, August 5th in Nashville. Steve Garcia versus Sean Woodson. I like Sean Woodson a lot. Um, Other than that, some other fight news: Ian Machado, Gary, Jeff Neal, August 19th in Boston. Um, that's a very
Sean
good
O'Malley card.
matchup. That is the Sean O'Malley,
And then
Aljamain
they
Sterling
announced
card. Yep,
Cyril Gahn versus Spivak.
yep. Cyril Gahn versus Spivak in
Which
Paris, September
means John
2nd.
Jones versus Sergey.
Yep. Uh, I think so. The thing is, Sergey Pavlovich is the one they're negotiating with now because something's going on with Stipe in the negotiations, right? And I think Stipe and the UFC, if we're being honest, have been at odds since he lost to Ngannou, because he wanted the rematch and he felt that Cyril Gane, they kind of had Cyril Gane overstep him. And I can understand that. Stipe is the greatest heavyweight champion in UFC history. I understand why he felt like he deserved a rematch. But at the end of the day, this is what's happening now. Sergey Pavlovich is looking like he's going to be fighting John Jones for the heavyweight belt. And for Cyril Gane versus Spivak, I think this is probably the best matchup you can make for him right now at heavyweight. Um, I think this is going to be a very different fight to the Tai Tuivasa fight. I think Spivak is going to be a lot more technical, going to be a bigger challenge for
He's
Cyril
one of the
Gane.
better wrestling heavyweights we got. I mean, look what he did, Derek Lewis.
Exactly. Then you got UFC Fight Night Singapore, August 26th. You're going to have Max Holloway versus Korean Zombie is going to be the headline.
Retirement fight for a Korean Zombie.
That's gonna, yeah, that's going to be an interesting fight, man. Very interesting fight. I think Max Holloway, I don't understand him taking this fight, if I'm
Because he
being
thinks he
brutally
needs
honest.
he
I think,
thinks he needs like one more fight, but he doesn't want it to be like a super hard fight. You know, he's already beat all these other guys.
yeah, well, here's my issue. He beat Arnold Allen, who's number 4, but now he's going to fight the number 7 guy. And meanwhile, Ilya Topuria is going to fight Josh Emmett, who's number 5. And at the end of the day, you know, they only said, like, there's a saying in the business world, what have you done for me lately? In the UFC, you know, you're only as good as your last fight, if you think about it. And I think for Max Holloway, the Arnold Allen fight is going to carry more weight than him beating Korean Zombie, if we're
Oh yeah,
being honest.
sure.
And for Topuria, him beating Josh Emmett, like you said, opens up a fight with Brian Ortega, opens up a fight, maybe backing up the Yair
Maybe he gets the
Rodriguez
Arnold Allen
Volkanovski
fight too.
card. Yeah, the Arnold Allen fight, or backing up Volkanovski and Yair if one of them gets injured or something. Like he has more pull for that if he wins his fight. So for Max, it doesn't make sense to be. It's more of a legacy fight. A lot of the hardcore fans, Korean Zombie, goated featherweight of all time. Max is probably the second or third greatest featherweight of all time. So people like it's a
Third,
nostalgia fight. If we're being honest,
third.
huh? Third, yeah. He's not better than Aldo. He's not better than Volkanovski. I will live and die on that hill. I know he beat Aldo twice. He's not Jose Aldo. So that's where
I
I
mean,
stand on that.
I guess I can give you
Um,
Aldo because he's goat status, but
yeah, go stats, and I think Volkanovski is a better featherweight champion than Max Holloway was.
it's
It
just the people he's
was.
beaten is tougher.
Um, yeah, and I think Volkanovski's the better fighter if he's beaten him 3 times. Yes, the second was controversial, but then he shut everybody up on the third fight. So you know, but that's another one. We'll make a video on that, on ranking the division goats and stuff. But regardless, that's what the fights are looking like. Another card that happened was yes, Bellator. Nemkov got the win over Yoel
Joe
Romero.
Romero was faking like he
Uh,
was hurt. He was doing them little dances.
Uh, Yoel Romero is made of steel, dude. I don't know how he ate those shots. That is insane.
Yeah.
And then Sergio Pettis got the win over Pitbull. Uh, looked so good. Sergio Pettis looked insanely good. I think there's a discussion for him being one of the best bantamweights in the world. And his only real like losses that he had in the UFC that were like significant was the Henry Cejudo loss. But then you got Corey Anderson winning a horrible split decision against Phil Davis, not because he shouldn't have won, because the fight
And then
was
he's
horrible in
talking shit to
general. It was
Jamal Hill.
terrible.
Like Jamal Hill won't send him to the shadow realm.
And that's what I wanted to get to. All right. This man tried to play MMA math and he said, "You lost to Paul Craig. And he broke your arm, bro. And I beat this guy who beat him." Like, okay, that's not how it works. If we are being objective here, Corey Anderson lost to OSP. No. Didn't lose. Got knocked out by OSP. Let's not forget what Jamal did to
Let's not forget how
OSP,
trash
right? So if
OSP
you want to
is.
play MMA, yeah, so let's play MMA math and do that, right? Second, Yuri, Jamal, Jan, all these guys, because Jan
Rare.
already knocked out Corey Pereira. All these guys kill Corey Anderson today. So I need Corey Anderson to take a step back. All right, you beat Phil Davis, who is pushing 50 at this point. Has to be. Bro's been fighting since I was a kid.
Bro, Corey
Let's
Anderson
not.
losing to
Let's not
Anthony
do that.
Smith on God.
All right, I won't go that far.
I'll
But
stand on that too. He'll lose to Dominic Reyes, bro. Come on.
oh my gosh, I think he lose. Yeah, I think he lose Dominic Reyes. You're right, but no, Corey Anderson looked like a clown making these statements. I'm not here for it at all. I think Corey Anderson, man, he has been a disappointment since he got to Bellator. There's a reason he went to Bellator, right? So yeah, I think him calling out Jamal, it's just cloud chasing at the end of the day. Um, and Jamal's got better stuff to look forward to, with Yuri coming up. So that's that for the fights that happened. Fights coming up. Now we got to get to the serious topics, the one that you brought up earlier.
Yeah, the
So
final topic we're gonna talk about is the Connor allegations. So apparently, some girl said that Connor, had her in the bathroom and raped her. But I've seen videos on Twitter of her afterwards, and she looks fine, and she look kind of fat. I ain't gonna lie. Like, you think he's out here trying to get with a fat girl, bro?
I had a friend of mine, friend of ours, said that that girl looked like Derek Lewis. So yeah, no. So that came out at the NBA Finals. The same one he knocked out the mascot at. He took a girl into the bathroom and allegedly raped her. There's, everybody. The Conor McGregor team came out saying it was a money grab. The UFC said investigating. Conor missed his deadline to enter the USADA pool to fight in 2023. So the Chandler fight is now
I
also
heard I was just watching
the
Chow
air.
Sonnen, and you know how they do it to where the short like the last second replacement fighters, they don't always have to be in the USADA pool. Like
Yeah,
the UFC can actually negate some of that. So I think Connor's trying to do some of that where he can skip all that.
yeah. So the problem with that is, so USADA, they asked Jeff Nowitzki about doing an exemption, and he said, "I know nothing about that." Playing dumb. Whether they do an exemption or not for
Yeah.
Conor, I think that's possible. But I think now that this came up, the Chandler fight's definitely up in the air now because of this more than anything. I think if you schedule a Chandler Connor fight with this looming over it, bad optics for the UFC, for everybody. So we'll see. We'll see if, when this gets figured out, how it's going to get figured out. I think for Michael Chandler, it puts him in a tough spot, man. Michael Chandler's like 35, 36 now. Doesn't have that time really to be sitting there waiting for fights, and so it's a tough spot for him. And at the end of the day, it's out of his control. It's Conor McGregor now. And listen, whether Conor McGregor did this or not, I think it just looks bad. Like the video of him taking a girl in the bathroom and stuff and security watching, it's at the finals with all the cameras on and stuff. It looks bad, right? I think for Connor, it's just he keeps getting into trouble, man. He keeps putting himself in positions where it's getting tougher and tougher to understand where he's coming from with his decisions and stuff, you know. But we'll see what happens. This has a lot of implications for fights in the future and what the UFC is gonna do. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna do it for episode Glove Talk 17. Follow us on IG at the Glove Talk Podcast. Give us a like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yep. Uh, thoughts and prayers to Bellator featherweight Chris Lencioni. He's in the ICU. Had a cardiac arrest. Wish him the best. This is real life. These guys play with life and death. That's why when we do this, talk about mixed martial arts, we appreciate all the sacrifice these people make inside and outside the octagon. So, yeah, and drug test Keith Peterson.